This is a poem by Tom Waits. It's called When. Homeless, toothless, spineless, ruthless. Down for the count, and the ref is on 9. When am I going to get mine, boys? When am I going to get mine?
Says what he wants, but he's never contradicted. He's a man of conviction, but he's never been convicted.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. This is Matthew Gosson. I'm going to be your host. Thanks for tuning in. Today, it's going to be Rebecca Donahue, a very interesting individual, known in the comedy world as Becky Donahue, but for reasons we discuss, she now goes by Rebecca. Lots of cool stories. I'm sure you're going to enjoy her as much as I did. Before we get into that, let's talk about what I'd like you to get a little more involved with the show, please. Send some suggestions, some complaints to manofconvictionpodcast@gmail.com and tell me what you want, and I'll probably do it. All right, so let's go to the interview with Rebecca Donahue. All right, everybody, we're here with Rebecca Donahue.
Hi, thanks for having me, Matt. Do you go by Matt or Matthew?
I like Matthew, but you can call me Matt, and I'm not going to stop you. It's just because it's less syllables and everything, and I appreciate that. But it's okay. I like Matthew.
There's a big running joke about my name because everybody that knew me from stand-up comedy knows me as Becky,
right.
And everybody that knows me from producing knows me as Rebecca. And they're like, oh, you started putting on airs. You got uppity. You call yourself Rebecca now. And it's actually not the case. It's mainly because my mother-in-law's name is Becky, and it just gets weird. You know, so when that happened, I was like, no, let's go with Rebecca. And so was my wife. She was like, no.
Isn't there a song, too? Or isn't it like in the black community?
Yes.
That a white girl is a Becky?
Yes, it's a crappy white girl. So who wants to be called that? I certainly don't. It also, if you look it up on Urban Dictionary, it's in a Pile song, and it's like slang for blowjob.
Oh, my.
Can I say that on here? You
sure.
can cut it. You can always bleep it.
No, we can say that for sure. We talk about blowjobs come up at least once on every episode.
But can you imagine, like, that's the urban slang for your name? Like everyone else, it's like beautiful, Greek goddess in the woods. And mine is like blowjob, crappy white girl. Wouldn't you go with Rebecca? I mean, most people with sense would.
Absolutely. Well, wow.
And that's how we're starting. Matthew.
We met through our friend Kira Sultanovich.
We did. We
were working on her thing, Let's Get Sweat, the talk show in a sauna.
It was so much fun. It was a nuts idea, but so much fun.
It's getting, people like it.
Yeah, it's she literally does comedy in a sauna. Russian comedy in a sauna.
And people are sweating, and the microphones are getting wet, too. Yeah, it's
and there was no waterproof gear in there, so I don't know how it wasn't an electrical hazard of some sort.
There was a GoPro that didn't last very long. I think it kept going out.
Short-circuited very quickly, yeah.
We're working on the second. I have kind of the second stuff already strung out, and we're going to regroup in February, I think. And
oh, nice. I can't wait to see
finish it up. I could show you stuff if you want.
Awesome.
So you have a background in comedy.
Yes. That's the main thing that I did. Is that what you're going to say, Matt? Did I cut you off there?
No, that's it.
Yeah, I did stand-up comedy. I still do it a little bit, but I did it, I guess you could say professionally. It's such a weird thing to say about comedy.
Well, you got paid for it.
I did.
Yeah.
And I did it for a good, 16 years. Right out of college, just did that nonstop. And I had, like most comedians do, a hot period where I did a bunch of television shows and stuff like that. I did some touring. I did a USO tour for Navy Entertainment that I'm really proud of. That was really fun.
Kuwait and Iraq.
Yeah. You know what? I lucked out. So the way I got that is I went to the Boston Comedy Festival. This guy, Jim McHugh, runs. And it's a great festival. It's just, they've built this thing up over years into it's such a raucous, really fun, great time. And
Jim McHugh?
Yeah. And it's really showcases, I would say, both Boston and New York talent. And so I went there and I just hosted a show, and it turned out being a showcase for Navy entertainment, and they took 2 guys off the show and they took me off the show. And they never told us where we were going. We just knew we were going somewhere.
Secretive.
Yeah, and I guess they do that on purpose for security reasons. And so we thought right until the last minute we were going to Kuwait, and which we did go to Kuwait, but we ended up getting the cushiest tour. We went to every naval base in Europe because Afghanistan was too risky at the time. It was about 2009. So they were like, oh no, it's too hot over there to send these comedians.
Sure.
So they sent us to all the naval bases. So we ended up going to Crete, to Sicily, to Rhoda, Spain, to Athens, to Naples. I mean, it was amazing. And we did perform on a big, aircraft carrier in the Persian Gulf, which was
very
amazing.
cool.
Yeah, Bahrain was probably the biggest, most like Middle Eastern, like, whoa, I'm in the Middle East now.
Bahrain.
Yeah, Bahrain by far. And then we did do a stopover in Kuwait, back and forth from Bahrain and that Persian Gulf ship.
Mm-hmm.
So it was wild. It was an eye-opening, wild experience.
A fun way to quickly see the world on somebody else's dime.
And not only that, you just get to see the weight and the might of our American military in a way that you never really fully understand otherwise.
It's pretty like massive and impressive, right? It's scary.
It's totally scary. Matthew, the naval bases are like college campuses.
Wow. And
They're
they're all over
massive.
the world.
They're all over the world. But like, I always thought to myself, like, how do you go and you're stationed in Naples, Italy for 5 years and you don't learn Italian, which is, it's, learning other languages is a fascination for both of us,
Totally.
I think. And they don't, because they stay on these college campus naval bases, and they don't have to because they're massive college campuses. They never need to leave it.
Right.
They have a general store, they have a gym, they have like everything you could possibly imagine.
They don't leave except for maybe to go out to dinner once as kind of like a big outing or something.
Exactly. Like they leave on like maybe field trips, especially in these places where it's just a jumping off point to, go to a more war-torn area. So it was fascinating. It really was.
I would be finding like the contracted workers that they hire to like do the laundry and that are the locals, and I would be like befriending them so I could learn Italian.
Of course you would. And I would tell you this, there's some so I would call them like naval wives that ended up living on the bases with the husbands, and some of them would be our ambassadors from time to time and take us around in the Italian city. And I was shocked at how well they spoke Italian because they were sort of commissioned with this job of being this, but like the show around person for guests that kind of come in, which is just such an odd thing for a Navy base, isn't it? But they spoke fairly well, and they learned it all there. But it always had to be the very, the folks that we're going to go the extra mile. We're going to do it. The super ambitious folks. And it wasn't the norm by any extreme.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, what a cool way to to work and travel. That's kind of been my dream, I think, as a child, was like I would love to, make TV in some form, but have the production cover all the travel so I can check off all these countries on someone else's time. That would be a dream.
Well, you've kind of done that. I feel like you're doing that.
I'm hopefully gonna, maybe I'm gonna start to do it. I did travel to France and to Spain through university, that I probably wouldn't have been able to afford if I wasn't getting financial aid at USC. And I was like, I'm gonna do these semesters abroad, and boy, did I get addicted to just diving into another culture. Just totally addicted. I still to this day cannot stop thinking about it.
I love doing it. Like my wife and I love to travel. We went and did all of New Zealand for her last birthday, like the North and South Island. And that was amazing. But we love going everywhere. And I agree with you. I'd go more if I could. I would 100%. And you're right. You just have to figure out a way to just kind of make it happen. I think a lot of people who do what we do make their own things, but far less than you would think. And I really think you can really expand what you want to do and what you are doing by making your own stuff.
Totally.
It's hard because it's a slog, right?
Yep.
But worth it, I think.
I hope so.
Are you okay with the dog? We'll
No.
have a little dog in the
Fucking
background.
dog. Let me go take care of him. All right. Took care of that dog. Won't be any more of that.
No dogs were harmed during the taping of this podcast.
Exactly.
Allegedly.
So let's switch gears and talk about longevity in this business and how to jump from thing to thing and leave a good impression and keep the flow of work going. What's your trick?
Wow, what a good and large question. Vast question. I don't know what my trick is. I will say that there's a term that I use all the time to describe myself, and I think you're like this, Matt. And the term is, or phrase is, compulsion to create. And I think I quite literally have a compulsion to create. Like, I make things whether they're bad, whether they're good, whether somebody's paying me, whether they're not. And I have realized at one point that I can't not do it,
Totally.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm lucky I have figured out a way to most of the time get paid for it. But that is, again, like, I will, to your point, shift gears. Like, I've gone from comedy to producing behind the camera to show running, directing a bit. And I've done that because, I really, where I felt my comedy career was, I was like, well, I can go on the road and do this until I'm, there's no breath left in my body.
Right.
And I really just didn't want to, I didn't want to be away from my wife that long. I didn't want to, I've done enough of the road to know, okay, if I have to stay in another comedy condo in the middle of friggin' nowhere, and who's been in this bed last, and do they change the sheets? And it's an ass, and for a woman, it just becomes a lot after a while. And the best part of it is the shows, but the shows are 1 hour of the day out of the 24 that you're stuck in this town, So I was just, in my mind, I was like, how do I make things where I don't have to go out and travel like that, especially with all the technology we have now. And so for me, much like what we're even doing now, I started building things digitally. And like I said, some of them were great and some of them were crap, and I made tons of them. I started blogging. That took off a little bit and went viral, but I made a ton of videos, each one crazier than the next, none of them very good. I mean, on my own,
Uh-huh.
And then I became part of like a digital department because my digital stuff was viral enough that I was able to get employed in that way. I literally have used everything that I've made to get a job that's paid. You know what I mean?
That's great.
And just kind of going up a step with something I've made and then make something else and then go up a step. And I'm still, I realize doing that, now it's probably more with scripted stuff because, everything I pretty much do is on the unscripted side. But literally I would do the blogging, I would do the writing, I would learn how things go viral, I would understand social media, all of this self-taught, just literally me in a room and sometimes doing it 8 hours a day. Literally. When I was doing my blog, I would sometimes spend 8 hours a day on it to the point where my wife was jealous of the blog. A blog. And she was like, I'm going to flush your blog in the toilet, back when blogging was big because I was spending that much time on it. And people don't realize that's what it takes. Like, it takes that much time to learn. But then I got a job, running social media. And then there I learned the video portion. And then I got, I was able to understand how to make the video and make the video strong. I had already had the talent portion and understood how to work with talent from being a stand-up for so long. And that's the thing is you go along the road, each thing that you do, you pick up another piece.
You gather your tools and your tricks.
Right.
Yeah.
And that so far has been working for me, but it's not like it's not a slog and I'm not doing it 24/7.
Right.
Because I am,
It can be so satisfying that the slug is worth it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think, there are times where you're like, oh God, I got to sock my own money into this again. And and I think what's important is figuring out your own parameters with personal projects.
Yeah.
Like, for one project, it might be, okay, I'm going to do this project and I'm going to spend $0 on it. So I have to use everything that I have here to make this project happen. And then another one might be, all right, I'm going to spend XYZ dollars on it, but I don't only want to spend XYZ of my time on it. You know what I mean? And so I've gotten better and better at setting my personal parameters per project.
Good.
And that has helped. But I mean, it's not easy. You could spend all of your time working for free, which no one wants to do.
I've one of my many New Year's resolutions is to not work on a per project basis. It's got to be hourly, and that way, feel free to note me and have another change and call and have another change, and that's all fine and good. I'm glad to do it, but it's got to be hourly. It's got to be. Otherwise, I get so frustrated because I feel like, wait a minute, let me add this up. This isn't working out. So that's one of them. And the other one is to wear more neckwear, any kind of neckwear. I decided it's gotta, because then I'm forced to wear shirts with a collar, and I'm old enough now to wear collared shirts on a regular basis.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
I figured I would just tell you that's one of the other ones. I have many others, but those are the ones I'll talk about.
And you're wearing right now, you should tell the people, would you call this, would gentlemen call this a bolero tie? Is it a bolero? What do you call that with the two?
I think a bolo tie.
A bolo tie. So what the hell is a bolero? Is that when it's the... Is that when it's like tied like a...
Maybe. This might be
like
a bolero.
bullfighter?
It might be, but it might be. Very well might be. And I think...
Did I make up the term bolero?
Well, I know that Bo Derek, that's the music that she put on, and when Dudley Moore in 10 came over and he...
it was bolero music, so it's a type of music?
That was the name of the name of the song. Yeah, I mean
this is a journey I did not plan to go on.
So that's all I know.
All right, so let's go back to your bolo tie. So
Please.
You should tell the people because they can't see it. I mean, is that an arachnid inside the bolo tie? I
believe it's a black widow.
It's a black widow
suspended in sort of a lacquer or something.
Mm-hmm.
This was given to me by a family friend years ago, and I kept it.
It's wonderful.
He also gave me a belt buckle that has a scorpion inside of it.
Okay, what's with the guy and the spiders?
He was like a guy. I think from Arizona. At one point, he lived in Arizona, and it was like his Southwest thing. He thought it was cool, and I ended up getting these, and it freaks people out every time. Please look on the website.
It's wonderfully creepy. I like it.
It is. Thank you. I will put a picture on it on the website on your page.
There you go.
If people want to go in.
I love it. The arachnid bolo tie. To be accompanied by bolero music.
When you tell people that aren't familiar with your work, do you have a few YouTube clips or a couple of reels that you say, here, have a look at this? And can I throw that up is like a Vimeo link you have or something?
Yeah, sure. I mean,
so people can get an idea of,
Yeah, the best place to go is BeckyDonahue.com.
Okay.
The comedy name, BeckyDonahue.com. And then if you go to the video section, I update that fairly regularly. And the things I'm most proud of on there's two things. One is I try to sell shows to networks built around comedians. So you will actually see our business's version of sales reels. They're really just sizzle reels, of this talent on that site. And I think they're fun and funny, and I think that I do them better than a lot of people that I've seen in development.
To showcase this individual.
Exactly. So, like, for example, I had a show I was trying to sell called Can I Kick It? And it was based on a live show with Al Jackson, Tone Bell, and Joe DeRosa. 3 guys, really great friends. It's like a mystery science theater of hip hop, but on its feet. They take old school hip hop videos. They, pay homage to them. They tear them apart.
Great.
And then they do the same thing to each other.
That's great.
They rip each other apart. And it was really fun. It sold to True TV in the end. The talent deals fell apart. But the show itself and the package that we put together, I think just really showcased how funny they are and showcased how this could be a full-length show in a couple of minutes. And that's really the goal of those. So that would be one. And then the other projects that you can find on there are over the last year, I've made 24 episodes of short form content for both Facebook and Studio 71. So when I say for Facebook, I don't mean like, oh, we threw them up on, I mean, Facebook paid for these videos, right? And so Studio 71 is an influencer company. They work with big influencers, and they also are a production house, and they do feature films, they do short form, they do content around influencers. So we did 24 episodes, 3 different series, 8 episodes per series over the last year. One was a food show called I'll Have What You're Having with Alonzo Larone. Another one was called Fetch Me a Date with Jonathan Bennett and Dorothy Wang. And the third one was called I Want My Stuff Back with Matoki Maxted. And so I Want My Stuff Back is literally like a comedy reality show. It's literally one ex knows we're coming, the other one doesn't. They go and try to get their stuff back from their ex.
That's
like
great.
Something they left there. And so and hilarity or mayhem or emotion ensues. And then there was a straight up food show where we took a guy with, from North Carolina. He's got a very specific palate. It's I would say it's not that broad. And we brought him and we had him try really eccentric things in LA, grasshopper tacos, Cheetos, encrusted chicken made at a car wash, like different things like that. So they're really cool, fun shows. They're shows with a beginning, middle, and an end. And, they're 10 minutes or less. And those I'm really proud of as well. And you can see some of those on there.
Excellent. 10 minutes or less. That's attention span. That seems where we are these days, right?
Yeah, and I think that there's some exciting, eventually want to make longer form programming, but I think that look, and that's the thing I always say to people, I go, with these short form shows, when they have a beginning, middle, and end, you put 3 together and you've got a long form show,
Yep.
But yeah, that's where we're at with people watching things on their phone, with interesting, I think, players getting into the space like Quibi, which is really well funded. Have you heard of them?
No.
It's Jeffrey Katzenberg and Meg Whitman, and Jeffrey Katzenberg used to run Disney, I guess it was.
Sure.
And they're literally creating content. I think it's like 9,000 pieces of new content they're going to release with, something in that vicinity, all for the phone, all made for the phone, all shot both 16:9 and vertical, so it's interesting.
The things you worked on, were they regular sort of format?
Yeah, they were all pretty much 16:9 except for regular format. So except for we would have sometimes like a wrap up piece or a button piece where the person, like the ex, for example, would be like, yeah, I got my shirt back, but I never want to see Bob again or whatever it was. And they'd shoot themselves on their phone. And then, we'd just put curtains on it and stick that piece of vertical video in the horizontal frame.
Got it. So I think I worked for them briefly for some show that was going to be on Snapchat. It was definitely going to be maybe Instagram, but it was basically 2 squares on top of each other and had different things going on in each of the frames. And sometimes if it was 2 people talking to each other, you'd have them both in the shot, and the back and forth would just be there.
And Studio 71 in particular does a ton of stuff for Instagram and Snapchat, and their episode orders are tremendous. It's like 40 episode orders, right?
Wow.
But I love what they do with what you're talking about. It's almost like the split screen that you would see in a normal format,
right,
but it's one on top of the other.
And it's constant.
And and it's interesting, and it's in almost all of that content, especially on Snapchat. It's interesting. I haven't done one of those yet, but it would be interesting to do for that. Yeah.
It's like you have to go, well, where are your eyes right now? And is a shot long enough for you to look up and go, oh, what's going on down there? And then look down and see it and then cut. It's a weird thing, but I can see it being popular. Yeah.
Well, this is very inside baseball, but the next show that I'm going to do has to be shot both vertically and in the horizontal format. And I was talking to my DP about how I'm even going to do that. I was like, I need 2 sets of monitors. Like I literally need one, because you don't want to have to change the frame entirely shot to shot. You'll go crazy. So you want it to be framed enough where the main action is happening in the middle of the frame. So you still have your square or vertical frame, but then it fills out in the horizontal format. Like I'm going to have to do something like that because, you're not going to want to change it frame over frame unless it's
It's going to be a formatting nightmare.
yeah. Yeah.
But interesting to see what the end product is, or what the client finally is happy with, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's going to be interesting.
How about some interesting, how about some like stories you would tell your friends when you're out, you know, maybe having a drink and sharing, dropping some names, but nothing to like, don't talk crap about anybody. You know what I mean? Unless you want to. It was revealed on this show that Chevy Chase is a dick. So that's stuff like that goes on here.
On this show and
yeah.
every other show, I think. Let me see. I mean, I have to say most of the people that I've worked with have been really nice. You know, most of the big names. And I think they kind of have to be. Like, if you're not nice,
You don't last.
yeah, like what goes around comes around kind of thing. And there's certainly folks that have been like dicks to me in this business. But then you look at them 5 years down the road and you're like, oh,
Makes
that
sense.
didn't work for you. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I most of the people in this business have been really great to me and really fun. And, you know, I wouldn't honestly, we were talking about before, I spent so much of my own time, so much of my own money doing this. I wouldn't do it with people I didn't like. Like, I wouldn't do it around folks that were just assholes.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I will say that there are certain people that stick out in terms of like, just great times. You know, Greg Giraldo way back when was a great time. I mean, it's sad because he was drinking a lot,
Yeah.
you know, but
Funny man.
yeah, he was funny as hell. He would come out. A bunch of us were younger comics. He would sit with us. He would talk about the business. We'd just drink. And, you know, I had a lot of good times like that doing stand-up, just sitting around with comics and, you know, trying to one-up each other. And there's kind of a fraternity to comedy that people don't always understand. And I would have to say, out of all the communities that I belong to, that is my strongest.
Yeah.
You know, even though I don't do it as much as I used to, my best friends are all comedians. My circle, you know, what I do is usually around comedy. So yeah, it's this odd fraternity, and it's been good to me. I mean, I met my wife doing comedy, you know, at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which is a wild time. You would love that. Have you ever gone to that?
No, but I've had friends, many people that have gone. Yes, I would love that. I know I would love that.
The funniest thing about it is Mark Maron, actually, not to name drop, but I just did. He actually, I remember sitting in a green room with him one time, and he was sort of, in his Mark Maron way, yelling at me to not go to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival because it's such a ripoff for American comedians. And he's right, because you have to pay all this money, sponsored or not. Just the housing, like, and then like 4 people come to your show and it's at 11 o'clock at night. And, you know, you're just screwed. You're basically screwed. You know, and Mark Maron was there, and it's like, his audiences weren't huge. Granted, it was a little bit prior to
His
WTF.
success, sure.
Yeah. But he was like, don't go, this and that. And so I disregarded that, and I went anyway, and I met my wife. So it was the best thing that ever happened to me. But
How long have you been married?
about 11 years now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's going well.
Yeah. Yeah. It is going well. Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm coming up on 25.
Wow.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
You guys were just babes in the woods when
Yeah,
you met then.
25 and 26. Yeah,
Where'd you
it's
guys,
super-
where'd you guys meet?
We met in Spain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was studying my last semester, studying Spanish at a semester abroad, and I met in, like, I don't know, maybe a month into being there.
Was she also doing the semester abroad, or was she living there?
She was living there. She was just a
Okay.
Spanish gal out at a bar that I happened to meet. I met her, a friend of hers, the week before. It was a slow sort of courting, and then she came.
Well, I
to
was
visit
going to
me.
say, because, so how long did you do long distance for?
She came twice over 2 years.
Okay.
And she was gonna come a third time, and we were gonna get married, and then she got sent back because that's a whole other podcast.
Like literally, like deported. Like,
Yeah, they sent her back because they decided she was trying to enter illegally, like, because she had a lot of luggage, and she was going to come here, and we were going to be like, oh, and we happened to fall in love and get married while you were on vacation. But it was more like, come here and we'll get married. But then I had to go to Spain to get married, and I did, and we got married in Spain. And then it wasn't long for her to get her, or clearance to come here. And
So if you were 25 and 26, this was pre-Skype. Was it hard? Like, was it a lot of phone calls, a lot of letter writing?
Definitely a lot of letters and a lot of expensive phone bills,
Yeah.
like ridiculous.
Because when I first met Carrie, granted, I met her more recently, so the technology was better. But I had one phone bill that was like my rent. It was like $1,200. And I was like, well, I'm not doing that again.
No.
So I got one of those Vonage phones or
Yep.
whatever. It was like those digital where
Sure.
you can make international calls for like $40 a month
Right.
total. And then tons of Skype. And, and then we traveled back and forth. But I thought to myself, like, how did anybody keep a long distance relationship before this?
And she's
So difficult.
Is she from Edinburgh?
No, she's from LA.
But
She was going to school up there.
oh, okay.
She was going to school in Scotland. She's actually from up north, Northern California.
Okay.
So it was just hilarious that I go to Scotland. The joke I always make is I thought I was going to meet a man in a skirt and I met a woman in pants.
That's great.
She was going to school there, vet school. And so we did back and forth long distance for probably about 18 months. And then I moved there. I was just done with New York anyway. And she was like, look, I have 2 years to finish. And I was like, party, and so then I went and I lived in Scotland and did stand up there for like 2 years. Tried to work, which was hard as hell.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's the one place where we were married early on. We visited Scotland, and my wife's English, second language. It's fine. She understands Americans, and she learned on American TV. But she get up there in Scotland, the guys don't talk about it like that, and they wouldn't have to say it that loud. You know what I mean? You ken what I'm talking about. And she's like, she would turn to me and go, "What did they say?" Like and I'm like, I'm not quite sure, right?
So first of all, let me just say that is a great Scottish accent.
Oh, thanks.
And not many people can do it that well.
Oh, thank you.
And that was really great. And I have to say, for native English speakers, which we were, there were certain Scottish accents where I would turn to Carrie and I would be like, did you get anything that he just said? Because I didn't get a word of it. You literally couldn't understand a thing. And it took some time because it is English-ish. And it took some time and your ear would get used to it. And then you would be like, oh, he's saying this. But so it's like you kind of fall into it. But that took months sometimes when it was a really strong Scottish accent. And there's almost like a weird Irish sound to it. Like, and they'll roll their R's. You're like, what is going on? Like, go over there to the, and you're like, what just, you know what I mean? So yeah. And stand up with it when you're listening to people with a Scottish accent. I was like, what is happening?
I would love to see some like rough Scottish stand up. That would be amazing.
I saw plenty.
And so they love an American over there?
No, like everywhere else in the world, no. I would say the answer to that is no. I think they tolerated us, tolerated me. I think what they did enjoy that I did is once I was living there for a while, and we're talking like probably a year plus, I started to do some stand-up and I had all their references. And like literally like the stores they go to and then the way they feel when they buy a certain thing or whatever it is. And I could let those fly really quickly. And then they thought that was hilarious coming from a really New York-y voice.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? And like I would say that in Scotland, their Mexicans are the Polish, which is totally true. Like everybody working in a kitchen there is Polish.
Uh-huh.
So it's basically like they're Mexican people. And so I would make that comparison and they would love that because they'd sort of get it.
That's great. Yeah.
And it that's interesting. There's something very interesting to that because you forget how local stand-up can be, and how local humor is.
Yeah.
It's about a shared story in a lot of ways. There was one gig that I'll never forget where I went up. Somebody booked me for this gig, the poor fellow. And he booked me for this gig, and it was like in a soccer club, like in a football club in like Aberdeen, like all the way up there, right? And I go up, and all these Scots are doing really well. And then I get up, and literally you could hear a pin drop in the room. They were like, who just put the space alien on the stage? Because it was so local. And then boom, here comes Fran Drescher. And they They
Who
literally-
the fuck is her?
Yeah, they literally didn't know what was happening for 10 minutes. You know what I mean? And I'm like, well, I'll never do this again. You know what
That's
I mean?
kind of surreal for you, I bet.
Oh, it was nuts. And you always think, like, is there something I could have done there? And usually the answer is no. You know what I mean? That's the way it was going to go.
Nothing could have saved it.
No. And that's why stand-up is the way it is. Because I always think of this scene in Seinfeld did that movie Comedian. Did you see that?
Yes.
There's a great scene, and I grew up around these parts, but he was at Governor's Comedy Club in Long Island, which can have vicious crowds for its late shows when they're just drunk, right? And he goes out, and this is after Seinfeld. This is after the wildly popular success of Seinfeld. He gets on stage. He starts getting heckled wildly. He can barely control the audience. He gets off stage. They're still taping him. He goes into the green room, and he goes, how big do you have to be? And all the comedians in the green room are laughing because the answer is you can never get big enough. You can still eat it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just the nature of stand-up, you know?
That's what I was told. You know, I had one successful debut sort of showcase from my little comedy class, and they're like, yeah, it was good and everything. You had an audience on your side, but you will do those same jokes and it will fail miserably. It will happen, and will happen probably a few times. So just know that's going to happen. I was like, fuck. All right, I'm ready for it.
It's really true, yeah. Just can't get more true than that.
All right, well, let's wrap it up. Thank you so much for stopping by. Great talking to you, for sure.
Oh my God, it was so much fun, Matt. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
All right.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, everybody, that was Rebecca Donahue. I want to thank you for staying here till the end. You people are amazing. Please keep coming back. Next week on the show, Juan Alfonso, or Juan Alfonso, for those who are intimidated by a properly pronounced name in Spanish. He's an actor friend of mine. He's about to bust out on an ABC mid-season replacement show with Jane Curtin that you're going to want to check out. We talk about that. We met while we were golfing. We spoke some Spanish. We hit it off, and I was just starting my podcast, and he totally agreed to come and chat, and we had a great time, for sure. I think he said he was going to send me some of his fellow thespian friends, which would be amazing. I did not say lesbian friends. I said thespian friends. So there. Thank you for showing up again and listening. So your patronage is totally appreciated and can be demonstrated at manofconvictionpodcast.com, or send me some praise or perhaps a complaint to manofconvictionpodcast@gmail.com. That's manofconvictionpodcast@gmail.com. I will gladly respond and engage with you, and I want to thank you in advance for reaching out. Would you like to be interviewed? Will you be in the San Fernando Valley area? Do you have something to contribute? Please reach out. I want to thank Daria of Change, again, also known as Daria Benedict, for her opening song. And now I'm going to play the extended version, which is 2 more lines. It's another 4 measures, I think. And that's going to play right now. So enjoy. Ciao for now.
Says what he wants, but he's so contradicted. When it comes to boxers, the briefs, he's a little bit conflicted. Walks the streets of Van Night, he's totally unrestricted. He's a man of conviction, but he's never been convicted.